What's going on, everyone? With the release of OP03 just less than 4 weeks away, I figured I'd go ahead and make a tier list of all the leaders going into set 3. I'm here with my friend Big D19 on YouTube. Check out his channel, link in the video description. What's going on, Meech? How are you?
We're doing pretty good.
All right, love to hear that. All right, yeah, so we're going to kick things off here into this tier list. So, first up on the set of cards we have Ace, which is my personal favorite leader from OP03. Super excited for him. I already have videos on the channel. I've already been testing them. Come July, I'm going to be tearing people up. I will say this. I place him in A. I don't think he's S. Some people think he's S. He's definitely winnable, but he does have unfavored matchups. So far, playing against you, I've had trouble with Katakuri. So, just double Big Mom, 10 drops is just hard to win with, but I do think it's possible. We've been talking about that. But I think he's A. I don't think he's S. I think there's other decks that are just slightly better, but I do think he's a top contender. He will top events. He will see a lot of representation. He's arguably the most loved character in One Piece.
Yeah, I think he's A for sure. Just because his hand advantage is crazy with the Don, Buggy, Nami, the Whitebeard Pirates cards. Like his hand advantage is insane. Uh, but he struggles when your opponent can constantly swing sevens and drain that hand because you're gonna end up having to use guard points or radical beams early just to protect your board or to protect your life. And like you said, Katakuri just kind of solos Ace. Uh, I mean,
I don't know
double
about solos. I think there's
it.
just some. I mean, obviously they've won. You can take on Katakuri. There's just a
You can
number of
definitely
facts.
take it down. You can definitely take down Katakuri. It's incredibly difficult once they get to 10 dying. Like you have to kill them before they get to 10 dying.
I think maybe if they have back to back, again it's very hard. 110 drop manageable, doable. You can hit them with crossfire, the flame emperor out it fine. But when it gets back to back and then you're sitting at one life and then they're back up to 3 or 4, that's when the pressure really sets in. But yeah, overall, a solid leader going into the format. Again, huge representation. I feel like it's probably going to be the only format that set 4 is very power creep. So hopefully later down the line we'll see another ace leader. But excited to play him. I think he's A for sure. Next up we have
Akainu, Sakazuki, however you
that's
want
it.
to
I was
pronounce
like, the leader's called Sakazuki, but we know him as
Sakazuki.
Akainu. I'll give him free. I think he's the most mid of the black leaders.
Yeah. I mean, his effect is tap 2 or 3 to pop one card with a cost of 1 or 0 or something like that. It's not worth the Don investment when you have better black leaders.
Yeah, Rob Lucci
He-
is like a
he-
kid, but
with extra steps.
with extra steps. For a color that doesn't have kid. But yeah, I think overall he's not great. Blurple Kaido, I would say he's a C. Meh. I think obviously going into set 4, if you've seen the set 4 leaks, there's been some talk Blurple Kaido, Blurple Crocodile. Overall, I think the Blurple Croc, Blue Purple Croc, is C. Meh. I don't think he's free just because the card advantage continually sitting at 4. And then in some of those, it's got control and it's got power from purple. So some red matchups kind of aren't a great time, but it's overall pretty manageable.
Yeah, I think both of the blue purple leaders go in C. They do have their ups, they have their downs. Like you have blues low end, blues draw power, and purple's just overwhelming force behind the kings. You can pop just about anything with king. You also have who's who. They can pop things. You have uh, probably one of the best event cards in Hell's Judgment. So I mean, You
Oh,
have
I did forget about the Hell's Judgment. That card is it's the only reason Magellan and other purple decks have had any representation. Hell's Judgment is intense. And then the Croc, when you activate an event card, right at 4 cards or less, you get to draw one.
yeah, and I think it's Don times one if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yes, have a Don attached to him. But yeah, overall, yeah, I'll give him C because again, like, not fun to play against. And so it's definitely not free. If anything, it's just like taxing on your soul. Um, but yeah, I could see just because again, you just have both of those control factors. I could see both of those as C. Regular crocodile, hot take. I'm gonna say he's free.
I don't think he's free. I think with him and Dofi, they're gonna be those decks that are gonna be the ones that just surprise people out of nowhere because nobody's gonna be expecting them. Everybody's gonna be looking for your Zoros, your Aces, your Katakuris, your Rob Lucci's. And then I believe that like they can come out of nowhere and they can both take events if you're not prepared for them. Um, Again, they gain cards that draw them cards. So they gain both the one drop from Nami's deck. They gain Sanji's peel off. Both of those cards draw cards, and then they can get rid of cards that they don't need in hand. So you can play now. You can play uh, of the 4 of the 7 drop Dofi, and you can play 4 of the 7 drop Mihawk, and you can have a discard outlet that you can get those out of your hand when you don't need them because you can play the one drop from Nami's deck, draw 2 cards, discard 2. So if I have, multiples like 2 9 drops and a 7 drop, and I don't need the 7 or the 9 drop, I can just discard them. Sanji's peel off is a pot of greed that lets me draw 2 cards. I mean, I think that they can still take it, but I don't think they're going to be like the ones that are just like sitting there at the top of the meta.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna stick with him. It's free. I just think that it's blue by itself is just too slow. Croc has some cool control power. I think he's okay here in set two. But yeah, going into set three, I just think so many decks gain so much and just have so much. Like yellow comes into the scene with 1 set worth of support, whereas others have 3 sets worth of support, or even black having 2 sets of support. And yellow just comes in and really shows that it can own up and have a place in the meta with Katakuri and Big Mom. I don't think blue has what it takes just yet. Here in OP03, I just think it's just too slow. I think it's going to be a faster paced gameplay. With that though, Dofi, I would give Dofi a B. I think he's C, but he is fun to play and he could win because you do get the Sanji's peel off, you do get the Pot of Greed, the +1, which is huge. I think overall, he's been underrated set 1 and set 2 and has shown up in all of those. I think he finds his way into set 3. Just because you do get to play cards for essentially 2 Dawn, which just gives you advantage, and it pretty much gives it that speed that blue needs. But I don't think it's going to be seeing huge representation. I don't think it's going to be winning a ton of events. I think it's more of a meta call, but very strong leader. Definitely the strongest of the blues so far. Outside of like Nami's a win con, so I wouldn't consider that like you win or you don't. But yeah, I think going in, Doflamingo is going to be a B.
But you also have to realize blue also gains rush. Blue also gains another 7 drop in Soga King. So I mean, I think blue can compete, especially having a card that you can rush in.
I don't think Soga King's that great.
I mean, he's not the best. Like he's not like 9 drop Mihawk where like you're gonna win on the back of the 9 drop Mihawk. You drop a 9 drop Mihawk if your opponent can't answer that 9 drop Mihawk and runs out of gas after it drops, like you just lose. And it happens. It happens. Like it happened to me um, at Mystic's Great Pirate Festival. Like, dude, 9 drop Mihawk me, and I ran out of gas as soon as it hit the board, and I was like, yeah, he got it. But I mean, I do think having the Rush Usopp and having the access to Sanji's Pilaf, having access to what's her name, Kaya, I think it is, having access to those kind of cards, Sanji's Pilaf, Kaya, the Rush Usopp, the new 7-drop Usopp. I mean, I think having access to those cards are gonna make those two decks more competitive than they have been in the most recent set, but we will see what happens.
Yeah, I think like Kaya and those cards that just let you draw, if they have you discard, it's not doing a ton for you, especially when you have to start discarding cards you don't want because you want every card in your hand. I think it's great for those instances where you need combo, but outside of that, I don't see it having a huge impact. But I do agree. Where would you put Dofi at on there? Like S, A, B, or C, or do you have it as free?
I have him as C.
As
I have
C.
I
I
have
can
him
see.
and Crockett C
I
because
see
I
him.
think that they can compete.
I see him as a C. Like, but I pick him as B because I just feel like there's gonna be somebody who's just gonna, they're gonna be like, oh, Dofi's in top 8, and I'm like, wow. Garp, I will give Garp a C. They do get more support in black, and then he of course has access to the red, but I just feel like for life, without an absolutely insane effect, is very hard. I mean, overall, the showings that I think we're going to be seeing is going to be 5 life leaders, with the exception of the 4-drop Big Mom, because you get the power, you get the best cards in black with all of the power of yellow, and she gives herself life. But yeah, I got Garp at a C. I think he's arguably free, but red decks are rarely ever free. You have to put up some sort of fight, especially if you're not playing red. So I'm gonna put him at C.
Yeah, I agree with that. He can be C because I feel like it's just you playing Garp is playing Zoro with the black blockers. I'm gonna be honest, because playing Borsalinos, playing the new 3-drop black blocker that can be KO'd by card effects can be the difference between winning and losing. Because like if my opponent drops a 9-drop Whitebeard on me, if I have either of those blockers, I can block his attack because he can't take them out. So I mean, I don't think that he's completely free because you just rush down your opponent with everything else, and then he gains his effect every time you attach a Don. So every turn when you attach a Don. So I mean, I think he can compete. I don't see him competing at the top level, at the top tables, but he may surprise you. You may find somebody that's really good with just red and black in general that can hit top 8 and surprise everybody.
Yep, I can see that. Yeah, and then Iceberg, I give a B. I don't think Iceberg is going to have a big showing, but he does have a powerful effect, allowing you, similar to Dofi. He's a 5 leader. He cannot attack, but he can play Galley Law characters for essentially free, or like way less than their cost, which again just gives you a little bit of speed, especially in a deck like Purple, which historically is a slower, more late game. I think it just helps it get in there early. Of course, you don't have the advantage of swinging 5 with your lead, as opposed to where the other leaders coming in set 4, which are just absolutely cracked with dual color, and they can't attack. But yeah, you just -1 Dawn, you rest him, you play one character with Galley Law that with a cost of 5 or less, so essentially going -1, you can get 5 costs, so you can get some big beefy characters on board before your opponent even has their 5th turn, and you could have potentially like 2 5 drops and start just going in. So I think he has huge potential. I think there's going to be, there's a ton of Purple fans. They have the Hell's Judgment, all of these awesome event cards that just give a ton of like defense going into a heavy defense format. Just because of Marco, I think overall, I give him a B. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy playing him, similar to a lot of people have Magellan. I think some people are going to see success.
I'm gonna call it right now. He's free. I take his curve. When you think about it, any deck that has a high curve, they can compete. They can be good. They can take people by surprise. But that high curve has to be on curve. You have to play on curve. You cannot deviate from your curve. If your opponent throws a curveball at you and you have to deviate from your curve, that high curve goes out of the window. It's same thing with Purple Kaido, same thing with Magellan, same thing with Ivankov. Once you throw that player for a loop and they can't play that 7 on curve, then it just makes it harder for them to play going forward because then it makes it more awkward. I mean, yes, you have his effect where okay, I can die -1 or 2 or whatever it is to play a 5 cost or less. So yeah, you can essentially do it early and get a big body on board, but how many times are you realistically minusing Don to play a 5 drop?
Every turn. Every turn. Turn
I
1, -1. Turn 2, -1. Turn 3,
Right, but
-1.
that also sets you back and turns your curve off because you
That's
have some.
fine.
But purple has some of the better cards in the game, and all of those better cards in the game, what do? They minus Don. So because they minus Don, if you're minusing your Don early to play these 5 drops, when you get to the point where you need something like a Queen or a Hell's Judgment, you're not gonna have the Don to do it. Whereas with Kaido, I can minus the Don, tap the stage, and get the Don back. So then I can minus it on your turn.
All right, chat. Let me know in the comments below if you think that Iceberg is free or if you think he will be relevant going into OP03. Next up, we have Ivankov. Ivankov has always been free.
I take with the new blue support, Ivankov is B.
Wow. Well, I mean, like, you can deck out. People have decked out playing Ivankov now. And now you're sitting there, you're drawing to, like, and then once you hit no hand, you are in danger of decking out. And then just once again, back to my reference, I think blue is just slow. Ivankov does have a cool effect, but, like, you have 2 cards in your hand. I'm swinging 7. If you don't have Dawn up, you're taking 7. Or you're very lucky and then you have no cards and you're taking the other 7 when I'm playing Zoro, or like I'm a Flame Emperor and then crack you for 2.
You're true. That's true. But still, I mean, I think with all of the draw power that blue has been getting and is going to get, I think that Ivankov is going to be able to compete just up there with the best of them. I do believe that it can take some of them by surprise because because the 7 into 6 on your 7 Don curve or 8 Don curve is insane. And then being able to just drop 2 cards, bounce something, and then make your opponent waste their Don to play it again. Like, yes, if you, let's say you have 5 drop Marco on board, you drop Marco, you play it, you don't, if you don't have a target, you just have a body. I bounce that body, you have to waste the 5 down to play it again. I mean, it. I think that, and Ivankov's blockers are bigger than um, most of the other blockers, so you're gonna end up having to burn like jet pistols and otamas if you're playing red to get rid of them. You're gonna have to run through all of your Okikus and things like that to get rid of them if you're playing Kinemon or Kid. Like, you're gonna have to rest those blockers to get over them if you're playing anything green, anything red. Your effects to pop, you're gonna have to minus and then pop. So like their blockers are bigger. I mean, I do think that Ivankov has a place, but I don't know if that place is at table 1. But I do think it can make it like a top 8, top 16.
Nah,
And
it's
try to get
table 200. Blue's too slow. Kaido, purple Kaido, also free. I mean, it's just his effect is very good. Arguably the best leader in effect has, because you just trash a card. And so then going for game, like you just peel the last one, then you can swing 15. Or you can swing 7, put him at that. You have like the 9 drop. So I think he's okay. But going into this format, he's free.
I mean, with black having the stage killer, yeah,
Free. Yeah,
I
free.
mean, the deck relies on the stage, and if you have the stage after turn 2, like, it's not worth playing.
Yeah, free.
I do think he's the best of the free leaders.
That's fair.
Just,
I think he's the best of the free leaders,
just because,
but he's still free.
just because he can still take games. Like he can still take games. He can still win matches. It's just having that high curve. I don't know if he can stick up there with like all of the red decks that play. I mean, incredibly low to the ground and can infinitely swing 5 at you.
Oh yeah, no, he's got no shot just because he's a late game guy. Yeah, and then Katakuri S tier. I think he's underrated. I think a lot of people think he might be A just because like he's slightly overshadowed by Big Mom, but I think he's just the better yellow leader. He's better than the structure deck leader. He's a 5 cost of the Big Mom. Yes, Big Mom does give herself life, but I don't think it's needed. I mean, Katakuri, like, you just stay alive, then you hit him with the 10 drops, and then it's really on. Like, you hit him with on the 7 curves, 7, 8, you hit him with the 7 drop, then you hit him with a 10 drop, and you hit him with another 10 drop, and then you're pretty much, like, back at 5 life. They're at, like, 1, 0, and then you just have so much presence on board. Plus, he swings 7, and he knows your opponent's life and your life, so you know what they're gonna get, and then you can manipulate it as well, so you can make sure you get your triggers, and you can make sure your opponent doesn't get any, or they get them in an opportunity where they just wouldn't use them, or like, you know, if you know that this card would be very good for them right now, like you can just do so many different things just to, and it's just very powerful. And swinging 7 on leaders outside of Whitebeard, because Whitebeard can counter out, but on the 5 leaders, just absolutely intense to go against.
Katakuri is S tier. I don't think that he's underrated at all. I think that having the knowledge of what your opponent is getting out of life and being able to prolong the game, and then dropping the 7 drop on your either 7 or 8 Don turn is massive, because it makes your opponent decide whether or not to give you a life. And then being able to play cards like Smoothie that essentially says draw a card, give this card plus 2k. You take a life, it gets plus 2k. Playing Daifuku, which essentially says, hey, you can take a card from life and then replace it with a card from the top of your deck. It's just nuts. Like it's so good. It's way better than it should be.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think I think it's very fitting for someone of his stature, you know, someone who's never been on their back ever. But yeah, no, I think he's absolutely just a monster. Moving on into Kid, I would give Kid a B. Green does get support such as Don Krieg, which is a very meta-defining card for Green. It's great removal. And so I think, you know, Kid is arguably the strongest evergreen, just green leader. Being able to swing twice, pretty much like Rush Jr., I'll give him a B. I don't think he's going to have like a ton of representation. I do think there are going to be, just like how we have now, those legacy Kid players that just know how to pilot the deck, gets them places. I think he's going to do just fine.
Yeah, Kid definitely gets a B. I think that Kid having that 8-drop Kid, access to the 8-drop Kid, access to 7-drop blocker Kid, 5-drop law, all the big blockers, probably being the most consistent green deck of all time, and probably always will be the most consistent green deck of all time, and being able to swing 12 twice is very massive, especially in the game where like most decks cannot defend against a 12 swing twice. And I think that Kid will be able to take, you know, a couple of events in the middle or end of OP03, just when players are getting tired of OP03 and they're ready for the next set, and you know you're not prepared for somebody playing Kid and dropping an 8-drop Kid in your face. But there are decks that are better, and can out Kid very well. Ace is one of those decks that can out Kid very well with Flame Emperor. Katakuri with the 8-drop can just 8-drop Katakuri, put it in their life, and then make them draw it and play it again. So, yeah. I mean, it can work. Like, you can catch them by surprise, especially if they drop that 8-drop early, and then you drop your 8-drop after they play theirs. If they don't have another one or can't get to another one, you pretty much just win from there, because they're gonna exhaust all of their Don and all of their swings into trying to knock out that Kid. And when you have those powerful blockers like Law, like Kid, it just makes it a not fun time.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, no, I think he's definitely got something going in there. There's those legacy guys. I'll put Kinemon at 3, or C, just because he's not great. He's good this format, like early on, but his representation really fell off, and you see like more kids, like we just saw this past weekend, kids taking events and topping, with like little Kinemon representation. The power is, of course, playing cards for one less. The Odin, and I feel like those just get overshadowed by just the potential. You do get hit with that Katakuri. Your Odin's gone. You don't get the power of him in being destroyed and playing out somebody so easily removed, or like he gets flame emperored and your Okiku is going to do nothing for you when you get swung on for 9k double. And so yeah, it's just a lot easier to get rid of the Odin. And then of course the 5-drop Yamato, double banish, very powerful, arguably best green card in the game. You get to play it for 4, you get to play it a curve earlier, but I don't see those cards being super effective, just because you do have cards like Fire Fist, just going to pop 2 cards, you're going to get rid of 2, and it's just a lot more vulnerable.
Yeah, Odin is the top of C, is probably the best deck in the C category just because of how consistent it is. And having access again to those big blockers like 7-drop Kid, 5-drop Law. You have a massive powerhouse that can swing 15 twice in Odin. But again, connecting that 15 and not losing that Odin, because I mean, again, Flame Emperor is a card, 8-drop Katakuri is a card, and if I'm playing Kinemon and or Kid, I'm waiting for your 8-drop to come down before I drop my 8-drop, because my 8-drop gets massive value after you drop yours.
That's absolute facts. I've held on to Marco's because I wasn't going to get any value out of him. Like, it's like I can wait a turn. Yeah, and then moving on, we have King, and King is free.
Free, man. I mean, anything purple right now outside of Magellan is probably going to be free.
Yeah. Honestly, like, yeah, I mean, King's always been free. Next up, we have Kuro.
Free.
I'm gonna give him a B. He's green. He's like kid junior, kid with extra steps. But he does have the whole East Blue vibe going for him, and there's a ton of East Blue cards. So I think he's going to be a fun to play deck. I think, early on you could see the potential wins as we're learning the format, and then I think he'll just be faded out afterwards. But he will always, like, as the game advances, I think he might be like someone that occurs throughout the meta. But we'll see. But yeah, I'll give him a B.
Nah, he's free. I'm sorry. The reason he's free is because his effect is tied to East Blue characters only. So even if I am able to get to a point where I can use his effect to restand him and swing again, or restand a card and swing again, I have to rest 2 of my East Blue cards, which at some point is not worth um, resting, because if my opponent is able to guard all of my other swings, I need those swingers and I can't restand them. Unlike with Kid, I can just don up everything, swing, and then tap 3, restand, swing again. Um, so I think that him having that restriction of having to rest 2 East Blue characters is what's gonna steer players away from playing him. Because again, he's Kid with extra steps. He has access to powerful cards, but when those powerful cards do nothing when the effect of the leader is locked behind the East Blue typing, I mean, it's kind of cut and dry, because at what point does an A drop Kid get you there if you have to rest 2 of your cards that could potentially be blockers, that could potentially be swings on your opponent life, um, and then it's almost not worth playing a the 5-drop Kid, or the 5-drop Law, or the 5-drop or the 7-drop Kid, because they're not East Blue type. Yes, they're massive blockers. Yes, they have pretty good effects. And yes, you with Kid you do at least gain a swinger because you can restand them at the end of the turn. But I mean, I don't think that he's taking anything um anytime soon. Like, he would need, a 5 or 7 drop blocker that either restands itself or that that untaps itself at the end phase, at the end of the turn, or something that's a bomb that's not Don Krieg. Like even Don Krieg isn't that great of a, like, it's a good card, but I don't think it's that great because it's 7 and you have to have Don times 1 in order for it to get double attack.
Double attack's very powerful. I'm always afraid to be hit by it, but yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, but we'll see how it plays out. Next up, we have Law, and this one is kind of spicy because I feel like he balances between B and A. Like Law going into set 2 for us here had no showing at all. It was Whitebeard was like, and the concept was, oh, Law can't beat Whitebeard, and it's like, oh, well, Law has a ton of blockers, and a bunch of blockers beats Whitebeard, and then so it had like next to no showing. Then all of a sudden, it's taking these events. Cross AI won Peoria with Law. We see just him everywhere. I think this past weekend there was a ton of Laws. I think Law, I'm gonna say, is A. The biggest thing is, like, the decks like Yellow with the Katakuri doesn't get maximum value because they're not going to return an 8 cost. They're going to return like a 4 or 5 cost. And then plus just, getting through those blockers. I think the biggest challenge is going to be Katakuri for Law, is because once they hit that, they're already at 4. They drop that Big Mom. You probably took damage early because they're swinging 7. It's going to be tough. But I could see somebody pulling it off, potentially topping an event, and then everybody's going to be talking about it. But yeah, I think he's like A, B, but I'll put him in A just to get spicy with it.
Yeah, I got an A. So the problem that we have with Kenny Mine was the fact that he's a little slow. He has a restriction on having 2 or less characters on board to use his effect, where Law has a restriction of having 5 or more characters and being able to play powerful cards like 5-drop Law again, um, 5-drop Yamato that does double attack. You can play the 4-drop Yamato that rests, was it 6 costs or lower or something like that. You have access to the 7-drop Kid. You have access to 8-drop Kid. You have access to Odin if you wanted to try it. But being able to play some of those cards for 2 Don as opposed to 4 Don or 5 Don is very powerful. And being able to play your 2K counters as a utility card, tap 2, play Law, bounce it, bounce it, play Law, bounce another 2K counter, and then play something else like a Vista or like a Zoro and get another swing in is very powerful. And I think that Law is probably going to see some success more later in the meta, like it has in OP02 for us. But I do see it taking some events.
Rob Lucci. I'm gonna give Lucci a B. I think it's gonna be a fun deck. I still don't think. I think Black is very strong, but it just doesn't have what it needs yet to be super successful. I think you do see like Rob Lucci top 16 early on. I don't know if we see top 8, but I have seen some representation as far as Japan. It's solid, but I don't think it has what it needs to be a consistent winner, and so that's why I'm gonna put it in B.
All right. I'm probably gonna get some hate for this, but I think he's A.
I
Um,
I
I
you
think he's
know
A. He gained. So hear me out. He has access to some of the better cards in the game, as such as Barcelona, the 3-drop unkillable blocker. He has access to arguably one of the better counter events in Shockwave. He gains Isho, which is essentially a mini Kuzan that you play 1 turn sooner, and it rips 2 cards out of your opponent's hand when they have 6 or more. So any of those decks, like a Whitebeard, like Ace, like Katakuri, like Ivankov, Nami, Dofi that like to have a ton of cards in their hand. If you drop two of those A drops and they have 10 cards, you're ripping 4 cards out of their hand if they don't play anything and they're just dying up to swing. You
I will
still have
say,
you still have access to that 10 drop, and then you have access to cards that just pop things. I mean, I think he's probably A.
I will say I don't think he belongs in the same section as Doflamingo. I think he is the best card that I have, the best leader. And B, you're 100% correct on the E show. Like when you hit that, like if they are playing against a striker or Whitebeard, you can hit a ton of cards. Absolutely insane. So yeah, I can see him being A. Like I think he's better than Law, but I feel like Law will have just more representation, more people trying to pilot him as opposed to Rob Lucci because no one wants to play a narc. Luffy, free. I hate to say that. It's just that Zoro is just so much more versatile going in. It's consistent. You're just playing the 1 drops and then you're swinging with them. Then you're playing Marcos and you're swinging 7. And you're just playing the 1 drop, getting more Marco fuel. If they don't attack the Marcos, it's like even better for you because pretty much it's just, yeah. I think Luffy's just free. I hate to say that because I think he's really solid this format. I feel like he's just can't compete going in. Everything else is just crazy. I hope somebody can prove that wrong, but I feel like he's very free.
I got you, dog. I don't think he's free. I think he's for sure B tier. He's for sure B tier. Again, he's not the best leader in his color. There are 3 leaders that are better than him. Technically 4 if you want to count Law as a red leader, quote unquote. But I think that him having access to the Whitebeard Pirates cards and not having to play the 3-drop Vista, the pop cards now, and you can play the 5-drop. You can up the count of your event cards so you can protect your life easier. Being able to just use Arrested Don, so when your 10 Don turn, you're essentially playing with 11 Don. I mean, I think that Luffy still has a place. I think that there are going to be some people that are not ready for Luffy, and they're going to get surprised. And he's going to take a couple of events, especially early on, because there are going to be a lot of players that are going to play leaders that they know versus the new leaders. And if you're playing a leader that you know you can pilot better than anybody piloting, the new stuff that they're still trying to learn, I think that, maybe in the first couple of events that we have, Luffy or something like Luffy or Kid or Law would be able to take those events just because of how well the pilot is or knows the deck versus somebody that just picked up, Katakuri a few days before the event and has been hard grinding the sim for a week.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to see him, but I feel like I'm just gonna clean him up every time. Next up we have Magellan. I'm gonna put him as free again. Purple just doesn't have what it takes. Like it's just even like blue gets good support. Purple really gets like nothing of value out of set 3. So I feel like it's just behind. Great support coming in set 4. It looks like, but yeah, I'm gonna set Magellan as free.
I'm gonna give him a C.
That's fair.
I don't think he's free. Because of his ability to throw the opponent off of their Don curve. So any deck that gets thrown off of their curve, especially if they play a higher curve, something like a Kaido, like a
no, but Kaido's not gonna be like Kaido Big Mom might have some trouble with Magellan.
Like Kaido, even Katakuri, Big Mom, all of those decks will have trouble with Magellan when I drop down the 5-drop, I minus a Don, you minus a Don. Then my leader goes to 6K and I can swing 6. Then if you decide that, okay, I'm gonna kill it, you're gonna minus 2 more Don.
But yellow's just gonna out it. They're just gonna Katakuri. You're never gonna minus somebody 2 Don. You're never gonna minus yellow 2 Don.
But if I'm but they have the so like even though Katakuri has the ability to search the A drop, you're only playing really 1 to 2. You're not really playing 4. Well, more like 2 to 3. Um, Katakuri. They're playing 4 Magellan, so they're
No,
bound to
you're
open up. They're bound to open up a searcher, and they're bound to see it. They're bound to open at least one. So if they're dropping 2 of them, you're not gonna Katakuri both of them. And they can drop it 2 curves before you can drop your Katakuri. So it's
crazy.
on board, and they'll be swinging 7 at you every turn because they put one Don under it, they swing 7. Another Don under it, swing 7. So your only real way to out it is going to be Thunderbolt, and you're not going to want to Thunderbolt it because you don't want to minus those 2 Don.
No, I mean, once you hit your 10 curve, you can minus it all day. But on to Nami. I think Nami's a B. I think Nami is going to top events. It just depends. Like, you know, you got to be the luckiest person out there. It's very solid. It was even better before they hit us with the ban list, but we're going straight into a ban list. But overall, I do think Nami is very solid. I would almost say Nami's A, but I think Nami's not going to be consistent. Nami's going to be here and there, and everybody gets excited. But I do think Nami is like AB. Nami will top events, but I just don't think she has what it takes to be like to be an A.
So as far as Nami goes, I think she's top of B. She's probably going to be your best deck in B. Um, because I think her deck is ultra consistent in finding the cards that it needs when it needs it. It also has access to cards that can be very annoying to your opponent by just bouncing them. Like you can literally just play like 1 9 drop uh, Mihawk and bottom deck a card. I mean, you can play Brick Fist that bounces cards to your opponent's hand. You can play 7 drop Dogi. You have access to a rusher now in the 4 drop Usopp, I believe it is. You have new Soga King that also bounces cards. You have, I mean, almost infinite draw power, and just being able to counter out of a 5K with a love being just to draw 2 cards is kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. You know, and you get to play a ton of just counters, so I can see that. Like I do, like I have Rob Lucci in B. If he was in A, I 100% agree. Like Nami's like the best, but it's like it's not fun to play against either. So there's like that. I mean, in terms of like sportsmanship, nobody wants to play against Nami. A lot of people leave on the sim. But then we have Odin. I'm gonna put Odin as free. I don't think Odin is bad by any means. I think he's just like I feel like in set 1 he could have really been something too. And even set 2, I think he's a solid leader, but he just doesn't have what it takes. Similar to like Kinemon, Odin's, I'm gonna have to put him as free.
I think Odin was a set too soon. It coming out in OP01 just made it very very awkward to play because there wasn't enough Wano cards, and his effect of makes you discard a Wano card, so you're not getting maximum value out of the cards that you have. Whereas in OP02, you have a lot of Wano cards that don't have counter, which his effect to discard to restand Don could actually is actually powerful. But I think that he's just like a leader that shouldn't be. I mean, he's like, oh, in my opinion, he's a worse Sanji.
Next up, we have Red Green Luffy. I'm gonna go C here. The leader is very good, being able to restand a supernova. Big fan of this card. I actually lost this at an event. I think it can do numbers, like it's meh, but I think you might lose to this at a table. Especially like round 1, you might find yourself just losing to this just because it does have that red green factor. But yeah, it's okay. I don't think it's free because again, red green, and then it can restand and swing. So I'm gonna give it a C.
I'm sorry, it's free. Yeah, I mean,
I could see it's got 4 life. I can see it. Like
it's not even the best leader in its color typing, which I mean, most leaders that have multiple, there's one clear best leader in that color typing. This one's not even close.
fair. Sanji, I'm going to also give Sanji C. I don't think, like, you do get Sanji's peel off, you get draw power, plus you get to use 2 Dawn. I think he's just a step above Odin, but also you get to use those powerful cards like Punk Gibson, Paradise Waterfall, the restanding. You have the blue control cards. I don't think he's going to be insane, but I do think this is one of those decks again. Like you're sitting across from your opponent, round 1, and you just accidentally find yourself losing.
He's free.
Okay.
Shanks
is free. Shanks is free. Smoker, I will give Smoker a C. He was very powerful this set. Like the underdog, but people were rooting for him. He showed up top 32, top 16. Not great matchup against Zoro, but again, you do get that support. You do get Isho, the 8-drop, absolute. It's an 8-drop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolute monster, ripping cards from the hand. Again, just one of those that you might lose to when you sit across from it, and then it might just throw off your day. But, yeah, I'll give him a C because I don't think he's free. You're going to have to work for it.
I'll give him a B.
I can see that, but I don't see... I got Lucci as B, so, I don't think he's Lucci. I know you have Lucci as A, so...
Yeah, I have Lucci at A. I have him at the worst of the A, and I have Smoker at the worst of the C. Or the B, because I think you're gonna steal some games just being able to swing 7 on a searcher. Like you down 1-0 a searcher, swing 7.
That's true. Everybody is playing searchers.
Yeah, and being able to do that consistently is gonna make the matchup very, very rough for the other player, especially decks like Ace and Katakuri, where they play a fair amount of counter, but Ace is gonna have to start dropping event cards to save itself at some point.
Nah. Disagree. I think he's free for Smoker. Uda is S tier, obvi. No, I'm gonna give Uda's free. I hate to say it. I wish the Uda leader was better, but it's free.
Yeah, I agree. It's free.
All right, Whitebeard. Whitebeard is S tier, 100%, absolute beast going in. He dominated when Boat was there. He's the reason Boat is banned. He's got all the power. He's got the searcher. You can search anything you need. And so you're maxing out on the events. You're maxing out on the defense already. You've got Marco, which is going to swing for 7. Your leader can swing for 7 so easy. He just puts so much pressure on. You've got the Rush Jozu's. He really is just going to put in the work. And then Katakuri, the biggest advantage he has is swinging 7, does nothing for pops. He's going to ditch the Jozu. Just absolute tank. He's going to have an insane hand. He's going to stay super relevant going into this. He arguably gets better.
Yeah, he's definitely S tier. Not the best in S tier, but he's definitely S tier.
Oh, that's a hot take.
He's not. He's probably going to end up being the worst leader in S tier, just because if they go first and they don't have the counter to outplay you, swinging 7 is going to drain their hand.
Oh, I think I just take it. I think if you swing 7, I'm probably going to get rid of the 2K cuz if you're swinging, I'm going to take it. I feel like these games end after two 10 dawn turns. If that, I think it's just a faster pace. I think he just dominates. I think cuz he's going to swing on you for 6 and then that's going to put on the pressure. And then he's going to have all of these. He's going to have the ace blockers and the ace or the Marco blockers and the Marco swingers. And those are just going to put on the pressure. And it's just going to be he's going to have so many cards, so many bring them back. And then you can only live through so many 7 swings. You're going to be on your 9th, 7th attack, 7K attack. And you're have no hand, nothing.
Yeah, but I think Katakuri's ability to regain life is stronger than Whitebeard's ability to put damage on board, especially when I can out them relatively easy and make you dump cards to bring them back. And then make you dump counter on top of that.
Right. Yeah. I think he's going to just dominate in the same way we're seeing is showing now. He's just 6K is just intense. 6 life is just intense.
I also think that if Whitebeard high rolls, he can be just about any deck.
Fair. Next up, we have the structure deck Big Mom. I'm going to put this as an A tier because the leader does generate life. I believe this one is at 2 life or less. You can place a card from your hand into your life. So the biggest thing that yellow has going for it is just continually gaining life. And then you can use cards to gain value by taking life and then using these abilities to put life right back. This one does drain your hand, so I'm going to put it as A tier because it is a top contender. I do think some people will be playing it, but I am a more of a fan of the dual color Big Mom.
So I want to like that card, and I want to put it in A tier. I can't. Uh, I think Katakuri's ability to manipulate life is better than Big Mom's.
I
Uh,
agree. Katakuri's
the,
S tier. This
yeah,
mom is A tier.
I don't, but I can't put her at A. It just doesn't feel right to put her at A when there's a leader that does the same thing better.
Well,
That's
she does. She also gains life. Like,
But you have to
Katakuri
get
doesn't gain life.
so right. Katakuri does gain life, but at the same time, you have to have two
Oop,
Don to
your
activate that,
internet's not
and
great.
oh, oops.
Oh, good.
Well, at the
You're
same
good now.
time, you have to have what 2 Don to activate the effect when you attack. You also have to be at 2 or less life. With Katakuri, it doesn't matter about the life. I can regain life at any point when I drop a 7 drop, when I drop the 10 drop, because when I drop the 7 drop, you're not gonna want to give me, or you're not gonna want to burn one of your lives, so you're gonna give me a life, unless you're just a mad lad and you're at 5 and you're just like, okay, I'll burn a life.
Yeah, true. Also, next up, my favorite, underrated. I think Yamato. I've been seeing a big showing in the Japanese card events. I've been seeing a solid showing of Yamato pulling off some wins and doing like topping in the 3x3s. So I'm gonna give her an A.
Yeah, I'll give her an A too. Again, Katakuri's probably the better leader, but I think that her ability to become what 6K on your opponent's turn is just better. It's just really good because it changes the way they swing, similar to what like how Whitebeard swings, because it's essentially a Whitebeard once you hit 2 life.
Yeah, I think overall, just yellow has some really intense cards. And then because you do have the 10 drop Big Mom, which nets you a life. And then, yeah, it does have the leader. It gains 1,000 power while it has 1 Dawn attached during your opponent's turn. So it does become a Whitebeard. Super, super cool effect. I could see myself, like, this deck, I believe, comes out later with the Luffy leader, but I think this card is very solid. I think it'll see play. And then we've got Big Mom, dual color, S tier. I have to put this over the other one just because you do get the best cards in black. I mean, you can pretty much. I've seen people play this leader with just yellow cards. Like, it is that powerful that you'll play a four life leader with all one color. I've also seen people pretty much just splash in Borsellino, the best blocker in the game, just because you can't remove it. You have to swing over it. And then this leader gains a life directly from the top of your deck as opposed to your hand, so you're not losing card advantage, but it does have the requirement of it being at 1. So yeah, absolute S tier. I think people are going to eat this card up. Can't wait to see what it does.
I can't put it in ST. I just can't do that.
Some people have
Um,
opinions. Yours is just wrong.
I have to give it a C. Um,
See? This
a
card is
C
going to destroy every leader in B and like all of the leaders in A. Like, I don't see how you could do that as a C.
because when you
All right,
look at
guys.
it,
You know what? Just stop, leave, go watch another video. No.
when you look at, like, yes, the color typing is insanely good. It's insanely powerful. Yes, you can just play Borsellino and the 3 drop black blocker and then play all yellow and essentially just play Katakuri. I don't like the having to have one life to activate its effect, as well as having to burn 4 Don on it. So I have to be at 1 life. I have to have 2 Don to equip to it, and then I have to have 2 Don to tap for it. So there's 4 Don that I have to set aside, which 10 that only leaves me with 6 to do things. And if my opponent is ahead, I need all 10 of my Don to at least either even it up or get to a point where I can potentially win.
All right. I disagree, but also I'm gonna put Arlong as free and Z as free.
Yeah.
Arlong, I don't think Arlong could be C. It does have the power of yellow. You know, you do have Tin Drop Big Mom, but like that's its only saving grace. I do think people are gonna have fun playing Arlong, but I feel like if it sits across at you at the table, you're gonna be like the happiest guy ever.
Yeah, Arlong isn't the worst of the free leaders, but he's not the best of the free leaders. I think Sanji and Kaido are better in the free tier than Arlong, but I do think he is free.
Yeah. And then Zoro, S tier, just absolute beast. Go again. You know, you get the buggy, you get to search events for your Marcos, and then you also just have like 8 event cards for defense because you're playing Marco. On top of that, you know, all of your drops are swingers. You get to Don still. You have just insane consistency. You're pretty much playing Marco Turbo. You can play the Marco blocker. You just have so many, the Whitebeard engine. You've got the Searcher engine. And then you're just swinging 7 nonstop and just putting on intense pressure. That is just, yeah, I mean, tier 0, you know, again, you can only live through so many 7 swings, and he's just going to swing that magic number so much.
Yeah, he's the best of the S tier. Much as I want Katakuri to be the best of the S tier, Zoro's ability to pressure Katakuri and pressure Whitebeard and pressure, you know, every other deck is insane. I do think that there's an issue with Red being way too powerful, but we're not gonna talk about that. That's another video we can go into. But yeah, Zoro's just insane in set 3.
Yeah, Zoro. Like if I think I'm gonna be playing Zoro, Whitebeard, Ace, just because all the red engines pretty much tie in. They're not that far from each other. I think I can see me switching between those 3, and then Yellow, Yamato, and then Katakuri. Super excited for the format. Thank you so much. Again, if you guys haven't already, be sure to check out Big D19 on YouTube. A link in the video description. And thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for future One Piece content.